Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Austin Clark here. I'm the host of the Multiply You podcast. Today, we've got a wonderful guest on, Maryann Remsburg. I'm so glad that I was able to make contact with her just a couple of weeks ago. We have some really interesting things to be able to discuss, and I'm excited to introduce her here in just a moment. This episode, it's brought to you by Moxie Pest Control. We, like all businesses, our purpose is to not just improve the quality of life for our customers, team, and community, but we want to be able to grow. So we want to be able to expand our reach. We do it all the same ways that you do, whether it's through SEO or pay-per-click campaigns or mailers or referrals or what have you. But we're also especially doing it via acquisition. So we've had some really great luck, especially in the Arizona market, growing our pest control company by buying other pest control companies. And so if you know anybody, if you're listening, that is in the Arizona market that's interested in moving on to the next chapter of their life so that perhaps it could be more adventurous, which is what Maryann will be talking to us about, have them get in contact with me. They can call or text me on my cell. It's 480-254-9730. They can also email me directly at clark@moxiepestcontrol.com. If they submit a form on our national site, it'll go to our national team. I'll never get it. I'll never see it. And so have them reach out to me directly. Maryann Remsburg, I'm so excited to be able to introduce her and have her share some of her thoughts with each of us. Maryann loves trying new things and pushing her limits, especially in areas where God has called her to trust Him and go for it. Whether living overseas, adopting, writing her debut novel, competing in triathlons, doing career consultation to help others step out in faith, or working with students, Maryann enjoys the adventure. Professionally, she is licensed as a school counselor, teacher, career direct consultant, and can now add author to her resume. She is also a certified professional coach recognized by the ICF. And you can learn a lot more about her on her website, which I've got here. It is adventurouslife.net. And everyone should go and check that out. I've learned so much just in the last couple of weeks by spending some time there. And then also, Maryann's goal is to help you live out your passion and legacy as you blaze your own trail with no regrets. As a trained coach, she has the expertise and life experience after living internationally for 18 years to help you reach your goals. Maryann, thank you so much for being on. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for having me, Austin. What a wonderful introduction. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, of course. Really, really happy to have you on. We were connected just a few weeks ago, and kind of as we were talking before the show, you've just, with your husband Brian, you guys have done so much, been so many different places, really had not an unusual, because what is usual or what is normal, but maybe a more unorthodox approach to life than what is the standard or stereotypical or norm. How did all of that come about? I mean, what's a little bit of your backstory?
I guess it depends what circles you're into, because we do have a lot of friends in the international world that have very similar stories. But yes, when you're back here in the States and you're talking to people and they say, what, you lived in Kenya and Saudi Arabia and South Korea, and you've done all these things. I guess it is a little bit outside of the norm, but we didn't start out that way. Brian and I were raised in Oregon. And actually, I was in Arizona for 10 years of my childhood and loved that.
I didn't know that.
I know. Yeah. Tucson. So great childhood there. And we had this drive for adventure, I just want to call it. We thought we would go have an adventure. We had in our minds, okay, we were going into education and we thought we'll go teach overseas for a couple of years. Like that will be this grand adventure of our lives. And so we'll do that. And we did. We went and we had to make a 3-year commitment at the time at 23 years old. That's a long time. And that just wasn't exactly, it was wonderful, but it wasn't just having an adventure. We realized we wanted our life to be that way, to be one adventure after another with an adventurous mindset in all areas of life. And so slowly from our time in Kenya, We did come back to the States for a short time, and I could go into that if you want. But we really realized, you know what? It's not an adventure here, an adventure there. It's a mindset of pushing ourselves to grow and to try new things and to just continue developing in this area of growth. And that really is what we see. Challenge equals growth.
Well, and I think that it would be important to perhaps talk a little bit about your time in Kenya and maybe even more specifically the 6 months that you were back in the United States, because it seems like, and like I was telling you, I've got your book. I've made a lot of progress on it. It's awesome. I also love the color a lot. So check it out. Your Adventurous Life awaits by Maryann and Maryann Remsburg. But one of the stories that you shared in there was that you guys were in Kenya for, I think, about 3 years. You had come back. At this point, you had your son, and he was young. He was a toddler, very, very young.
Yeah.
And you both had got jobs doing different things. But one of the things that you did together was kind of like property management. And so you were able to be property managers together and have a reduced rent or a place to be able to stay. And the thing that stood out to me is you had this experience late one night with your son in, I say pack and play, but what I envisioned was like one of those circular things like a little mini kid prison with toys all around it,
Exactly.
that keeps them in one place. And you did that with a purpose and with a reason. I mean, maybe share a little bit about kind of that scene and some of the thoughts that were going through your and Brian's mind as you were there cleaning up in this less than sanitary clean apartment.
Yeah. So this came after 3 years of life in Kenya. That really was an amazing adventure. The Kenyan people are so welcoming and hospitable. And we got to do everything from camp in the middle of game parks, which, yeah, we could go into that, but it says, don't get out of your car until you get to a campsite. Then you can camp there. But so we camped, we hiked Mount Kenya. We spent Y2K at the top of Mount Kenya, a 4-day trip out.
Wow.
We didn't know what was happening below. Brian, actually, we both played in Kenyan basketball leagues until I was pregnant. And so we were the only Wazungu with our friend in these stadiums. Wazungu are basically white-skinned people. We're the only white-skinned people in this entire stadiums. And so these kind of adventures that took us outside of our, comfortable lives in the Northwest and just the known, right? It was a lot of the unknown. So we had grown so much over those 3 years. We'd worked in a missionary school and just continual challenge and growth and new experiences. So after that time, and we might get to this, I think later we're going to talk about our language. We felt like we should come back to America. We should. We have a baby now. We should bring him back. We should kind of live a little more settled near grandparents, that kind of thinking. And we were there just a few months, as you said. It wasn't even as glorified as property managers. We were apartment managers. So basically we got to, rent the apartments and clean the apartments. And so we were in the middle of just a disgusting apartment that I was grossed out just being in there. And as you said, Corbin's in this little jumper thing safely in the middle of all this. And we're just cleaning out. I was actually shocked. I'm like, wow, I can't believe people live like this, unless they did just for us. I don't know, but it was pretty gross. And so we're cleaning this out, and it wasn't so much that I don't want to say to anyone like that, doing that job, that can't be exactly what someone, that might be perfect or where you are or what you need to be doing. And it was what we needed to be doing that year, but it was a catalyst for us. And it, in our mind, said, you know what? We came back for should. We are here because of obligation and thinking, this is like normal life and it's time to get back to that. Instead of really being passionate about who we were and what we felt we were called to do and continuing that challenge and growth. And we weren't doing that near as much that year. We kind of just like settled in and kind of, how would I say, just got in the mundane and the rut. And for us, that's what that became. So not to say our adventure, we're never saying to anyone else, that is what your adventure should look like. we're saying to each person, find what your adventure looks like. What challenges you? What pushes you? What do you dream about? What are you passionate about? For us, that was the catalyst. So I'll just tell you kind of a brief next step to that story is we were trying to get a job overseas again in international schools. And at this point, we didn't have a lot of money. We had come from a missionary school in Kenya. There wasn't much, I was actually back at school getting my master's that year that we were in the States. And so we bit the bullet and we went to Iowa in the middle of a blizzard to this job fair for international schools. And first thing I said to Brian, we sit down in the very first meeting and I go, I'll go about anywhere, but I don't want to go to the Middle East. And he kind of knocks me and is like, well, you never know. First guy that speaks says, don't rule out the Middle East. My next challenge was God had us going to Saudi Arabia for 12 years and it was incredible.
And you guys were there for 12 years.
Yeah, 12 years we lived there.
Wow.
And had 3 more kids, 1 biological, 2 came home from Ethiopia while we lived there. And yeah, the stories and the adventures there and the growth. It wasn't always easy. I mean, not even in Kenya, there were tough times. There were scary times there was carjackings happened and pickpocketing. In Saudi, there was especially a couple of years in, there was a time where a compound was taken over and attacks happened. So not saying like it's all like, oh, it's so easy and just roses when you're pushing yourself in new areas. But I am not the same person today that I was before we went to Saudi and after that South Korea and Kenya. And I think it is because of that constant trying new things, being in those challenges, overcoming fear. And that's helped me grow to who I am today. And now as a business owner, even.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. There was another story in your book that I really, really liked that I was hoping to be able to touch on. It has to do with Christmas of 2015. So not
Yes.
very long ago. And before we go there, I just also wonder too, I would imagine that with what we've gone through the last 12, 18 months with the pandemic, perhaps there's people that are more open-minded than ever before to travel, to be a little more adventurous. Maybe they're realizing that they don't have to necessarily have a 9 to 5 or be to the office every single day, and that a lot of meetings can get done via Zoom or not at all. And so there's a lot of different ways to be able to do that. There's and you might like it, but there's a documentary that's been out on Netflix. It's called Minimalism. And it's a really, really good documentary. It's not really long either, but one of the things that stuck out to me when I watched that a couple of years ago, I think I actually rewatched it a year or so ago because I liked it so much. But, they said, hey, so the American dream, and they kept talking about that. They said, well, that's just one dream or one way to live. And just because the American dream of going to school, going to college, buying a home, getting a mortgage, perhaps having working at a place and then retiring, like that, I think more and more and more that might not sound like so awesome to a lot of people. All for what? So you can work and retire and be in okay health to be able to do half of the things that maybe life is to be lived along the way. And you guys, have certainly been able to do that. So fast forward us, Maryann, to.
Can I touch on something you just said?
Yeah,
And then
please.
I would love to tell that story. I think you said some people are more open to that idea right now. I think I've seen it stronger on both sides. I've seen some people they're like, you know what? This life is to be lived. I am not going to just maybe do the 9 to 5 and all that. I'm going to do those things I'm passionate about because you just don't know, right? We have to take every day as a gift. And I see definitely some people going more that way. Then I see other people going the other direction who I think are just paralyzed by fear. And they are just holding on to kind of the that sense of not letting themselves be free and go because of that fear. And so I think people are making a choice right now, a decision. I mean, we might fall one way or the other, but it is ultimately, I believe, a choice that we get to make of, are we going to take control here and say, you know what, this is what I want my life to be? Or are we just going to be shut down and say, well, this is what has happened to my life right now. And so I'm actually seeing kind of a divide between those two things in people. And that is part of my hope and my goal is to help those people that are just stuck in that and not able to see that they do have choices, that they still can live. In fact, in some ways, you have more choices. Like you're saying, you don't have to do things in the way they've always been done. You might have more freedom with business or kids schooling or those kind of things than maybe you have. So helping those people see that. And then the people that are like, okay, I want a new mindset. I want to live what's really important, what I'm passionate about, helping them do that. So yeah, it is an interesting time.
Well, let's go back there first. So what is that? I mean, as far as the latter group, people that may be living in fear or a little bit paralyzed or just not super risk averse, what does that process look like with you and Brian and your firm? I mean, what are the first kinds of steps? I mean, how do you help them? You've done a lot of different things, and have all your fingers, all your toes, all, and you're doing just fine. But how do you help someone to either feel more at ease about that or have them know that, hey, the world is big and some of it's scary, but it's not all big and scary. And there's a lot of incredible people and cultures all over the world. What does that process look like?
Well, we talk about the 7 coordinates in our book. It's 7 coordinates for living a purposeful life of adventure. And so I'll just go to coordinate number 1 and 2 to kind of start off to answer that question. Coordinate number 1 is know your zone. It's acknowledging where you are right now. So I think that's a first step, acknowledging what is really paralyzing you? What is that big fear of the what if? And so being aware of that, we have our zone of comfort, we call it. We all, we have to be there sometimes. We have to live in that zone sometimes, just for normal life. We can't live out in our zone of challenge all the time, but we do want to get into our zone of challenge. So if someone can first recognize, man, I am stuck completely in my zone of comfort. I'm not doing anything anymore that's pushing myself or that is in a positive way. And I think some people are feeling pushed already. So many things right now from outside forces that they're like, okay, I just have to stay safe and can control what I can. But pushing yourself in those ways that you want to into your zone of challenge. Then the third zone is the zone of that's crazy. And those are those big dreams you have, those things you do want to accomplish. But right now, they're too much. They would shut you down. They would paralyze you also. So that sweet spot that we help people get into is that zone of challenge. What for you is that challenge that pushes you just enough? It doesn't shut you down, but it does get you out of pushing the boundaries of your fear, not letting that just trap you in. So one way, and this is coordinate 2 that we talk about, is exploring possibilities. And there's a lot of ways to explore possibilities, but we talk about 3. And 1 is just taking a step off your normal path. So if you do things in a normal way, especially right now, if you're not leaving your house maybe, or you're not doing these things that you used to do and you used to really enjoy. Maybe it's relationally, you're not having those right now. What is one thing you could do that's just outside your norm? Not a big step. It takes 5 minutes, maybe. Maybe it is calling that person. Maybe it's taking a walk around the block. Maybe it is stopping into the store, whatever it is, depending on where people are. Just that one step off of the normal path. And then there's taking a new path to the same destination. So what's the goal? Maybe the goal is the same as it was, but now you have to do it differently. So if your goal was to, let's say, have a great relationship with your child, you might have done different things before to have that great relationship. Now you're like, I can't think of anything. What do we even do other than to do, right? Exploring those possibilities of what you can do. Your ultimate goal is having a great relationship with your child. Well, how are you going to do that nowadays? It might look different, but same goal. And then the third way we look at possibilities is a brand new destination. This is a time a lot of people are looking at their careers. Is this the time to make a career change? Is this a time for something new? Going to a completely new destination. So those are just ways we start people. You don't start with maybe the big change in life. If they're just paralyzed and fearful, fear's holding them back. We start by addressing where they are and just small steps to explore possibilities.
Yeah, maybe for someone in that category, maybe summiting a mountain in Kenya is not the first step
Hmm.
if they're not going to the grocery store right now. Maybe it's
Yeah.
those baby steps that you're talking about. So there,
Yeah.
I know that there's got to be, and I know that we're going to talk about you and Brian becoming kind of relatively new business owners, but even in the short time that you guys have been doing that, there's got to have been. I mean, has there been an experience with a client or a person that has just been like so rewarding where maybe they were just so paralyzed by fear, uncertainty, not knowing whatever it might be, and you were able to kind of walk them through some of these to see them
Mm.
just do things in a short or long period of time that they just never even thought that they would be able to do.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to share that story, but can I share the story of Cambodia first? Because I'll tie that into the question you just asked.
All right,
Is
Christmas
that okay? We go
2015.
there?
Yeah, here we
Okay.
go. I love it.
So let me tell you about Christmas in Cambodia, as we call it. And then I will connect that to what you asked about helping clients do that as well in one specific. So Christmas, 2015, we had 4 kids with us. Let's see, I have to do my math here. 14 to 8 years old, I believe, at the time. And we had decided to actually go spend our Christmas. We usually spent Christmas at home, but this year we decided to go spend it in Cambodia. So we had a wonderful trip, had it all planned out. And Christmas Day, we actually ended up having Christmas by the pool in the morning. And we did this is one of our family jokes now, is we did the gift of words that year. The year before, my youngest son had given everyone the gift of words, a poem or something nice. And so my older son said, I didn't know we could do the gift of words. So the next year we did the gift of words. It was actually really special. Although at the end they said, could we please do gifts next year?
They thought it was
So
cool for a year or two, right?
it was really cool for 1 year. But
Yeah.
so we had done this time. And then we were supposed to fly down to this basically a very small island, a camp out on this island. We were in tented camps on this beach island. And so we went to the airport after this really nice breakfast, the gift of words and all that. We get there and they're like, oh, the plane is delayed. It was kind of more like a bus, right? The bus might come, the bus might be late, but it was a plane going in the air, Always do a little praying on those hopper flights like that. So we get there, so we're delayed. So Christmas Day, we're in the middle of the airport. Now, when we had first moved overseas and many other people we've seen, especially Americans, you're at the counter like, well, I want to talk to the manager. It's Christmas. We're supposed to be down there. But we've been overseas for quite a while at this point, and we thought, okay, let's just make it fun. We're stuck in this tiny little airport for who knows how long. And so we played games and we were having some fun. And a few hours later, we got to fly. So we get down to where we're supposed to meet the boat. Now, we were supposed to meet this little boat, take us to the island in the middle of the daytime. It was, a daytime 90-minute boat ride out to this island. Well, by the time we get down there, it's getting dark. And this little tiny village that we're going into, there's like one light and everything's shut down. It's silent. The taxi has dropped us. We are here. And so we're kind of walking around. We find the boat dock. Nobody, no activity. Finally, we find this little restaurant. We can hear there's something inside. We open it up. We're trying to talk to them to communicate. We're looking for our boat driver. And we had told him our flight was going to be late. He said he would be there. So finally, we're kind of like, well, we might get to camp right here on this, boat dock area. And the owner of the resort or manager of the resort and the boat driver come and okay, they say, we're ready to go. So they take us down this rickety boat dock. And there is this boat that looks like, how do I say? A little rough. It looks like it has a lawnmower engine.
Huckleberry Finn's raft was a yacht compared to this thing.
Oh, yes, it was rough. It was rough. So it's very low to the water, just kind of some slats to sit on. And I do like to think of it as a lawnmower engine in the back. That's exactly what it sounded like. And so we take off, and this is where the fear comes in. Okay. It's now dark. I have my 4 kids. They can all swim, but we are getting, it's 90 minutes out in the dark on this very rickety boat with a lawnmower engine. We did have life vests, but I just fear kind of got me. Right. And I'm like, okay, this is not what we planned. This is not what we're it was supposed to be like. It was supposed to be in light. There was no one. We couldn't get help for as far as we could see. The water is warm. That's a plus, but still. Well, about this time, the manager of the hotel who had came, and later it hit me, he had given up his Christmas evening too. It wasn't just ours that was inconvenience. He had these people he was supposed to meet, and he had given up his Christmas, hours of his Christmas, which hit me later. But he had gone, and why he was late is he had gone shopping, and he had planned this impromptu Christmas party on the boat for us. He pulled out Christmas hats, and he pulled out kazoos and chocolates and all these things. And we began to sing Christmas carols, like Christmas songs, and that fear, I was still really happy when we got there, but it just being prepared to take kind of what came, trying to be prepared, I should say, and being open to that. It was one of the most incredible experiences because it was this unexpected, beautiful, fun memory that us and our kids will never forget. And it really was like, okay, we're okay. We are okay. We have life vests. We're in warm water. We are, even if, the worst happened kind of thing, we're okay. And on the other side, we're great. We are fabulous because we have this most beautiful experience. And then we got there and he said, come on up to the main it was an open air restaurant. Come up to the restaurant. And when you're settled in your tents and, we'll get you something to eat. Well, we went up there and you would have thought we were a long lost family. This group of people, there was probably 15 or so, knew we were coming, this family on Christmas night and waiting for us. And we got there and they welcomed us. Hey, Christmas. And we ended up having dinner with all of them. And so, yeah, that was one of our best memories. I had to overcome my fear. I had to be okay to enjoy the experience. So, did you want to say anything?
Well, I mean, just, like the thing that I wanted to note is like, this isn't just like you and Brian with no kids and not a care in the world. Like there are kids along a lot of this. And so I think that sometimes people will not like use the excuse, but well, pulling my kids out of school and their friend group and what an incredible opportunity and experience you were able to provide them, and one that will not ever soon be forgotten.
Yeah, we decided when Corbin, our oldest, was born in Kenya, that we were going to keep doing those experiences, keep doing those adventures. And we did all through all four of ours, growing up. And even now, we really do try to help them try those new things and take calculated risks. We don't just say, oh, be risky for the sake of being risky, but you have to know your why. Why we're doing this, why we want these cultural experiences, why we want to know people so intimately and really know people from around the world and understand what they're like. We feel like that's a gift that we've given them that, is so rich. Like we're thankful. And now it's fun to see them. Our oldest is 20 now and 2017 into 14-year-olds, and to see them in the way that they interact and their mindset is pretty awesome.
As the oldest, Corbin, has he planned any adventurous things that have mom and dad like, oh, that might be a little too adventurous?
He's always doing. He was this weekend. He loves 4-bying. And so him and a friend were out 5 hours up into the deep snow, just getting stuck for the thrill of getting out. And so this experience with Christmas, what was it? Someone that you met there? Was it one of your children that kind of had like an aha moment or an experience that they didn't think that they could do or push through? Or was that kind of a different part of the story? Well, I'd say the aha moment on the boat was mostly mine. Kids really do go off of our emotions and our kind of leading. And so I think for myself to be able to say, okay, I'm very nervous in the situation at first, and then say, no, I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to, and coordinate 4 is prepare for the unexpected. I'm going to take this unexpected positive and not basically ruin this experience by, the worries consuming me and those things. And so I think for me, that was the biggest aha. So when we come to business, let me relay it to that. You come to business and we're helping people go after their dreams makes me think of one recent client who has had this dream for 20 years to do something. And I won't be too specific because I wouldn't want to give away, anything of a client, but they've had this dream of something that they want to start and they want to do for their community. 20 years been rolling around in his head. And the what ifs, the fears, those things are stopping him. So helping him really think those through and address them and think about, okay, what is that obstacle? Like, what's that big one that's stopping you? And then how are you going to overcome that? We talk in our book about dead end thinking. And this is that language piece you and I were talking about before, how powerful that is. Our language is so powerful. And if we say dead end, oh, I can't do that, or that's too hard, I'll never be able to figure that out, that's going to stop us every time. We've already determined the outcome. We've already decided how the end of that story is going to be because our thinking is dead end. We call it rerouted thinking. Your GPS, it doesn't, when you want to get somewhere, right? And it doesn't ever just say like, oh, you're stuck forever here. Sorry about that. No, it says rerouting. It's rerouting. It always finds a way to keep you moving, to find some other way to get there, which I appreciate about that. But that's what we need to think with our own mindset. As soon as we say, oh, I'm stuck here, that's it. Yeah, you are. But when you can say, okay, I have options. What's holding me back? Hey, I don't want that fear to hold me back anymore. I don't want that dead end thinking to hold me back. I'm going to find a way around it. So that's really with this client, what we've helped him to do. And I think that's what I was able to do on the boat in my own mind, say, I am not going to let the fear make this this is a bad experience. This is a scary experience. This is, we just have to get there. We just have to get there. Instead, it became, I'm going to embrace it. And our Cambodian guide there really taught me that. He was, I don't know, we sent him a book recently and we wrote him just how meaningful his positive attitude of that night and making it a special experience for us. And again, giving up his Christmas evening to do that for us. That just really taught me a lot in that night.
Well, and you talk about language and just how important that is, right? I mean, the words that, can't, won't, not able to, that will never. I mean, I guess so, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And so just open-ended type questions, hey, this is a really difficult thing. What would it look like to be able to accomplish that? Has anyone else ever done that? Is it a possibility? What's great about this experience, rather than we might sink in the water 90, halfway in between this 90-minute drive with my husband and 4 kids. And, it's like, what a wonderful experience. So
yeah, I love those questions, Austin. Those are great. 2 words that if anybody can take from this, just to put on the front of your sentences to open up that is, I wonder, I wonder what great could come out of this. I wonder what I'm going to learn through this. As you said, I wonder who has been through this before. I wonder who's going to help me. I wonder how I'm going to be different a year from now. Just put I wonder on questions. And it opens up your mind to whole new possibilities where you might have been stuck before.
Yeah, rather than just no or dead end or becoming a negative self-fulfilling prophecy where you're just there. Talk to us a little bit, Maryann, about kind of the why behind goals. This is a big part of what you guys do. Everyone has goals. Maybe some of us are more effective than others, perhaps. But what are some of your thoughts behind setting effective goals, or having a why behind them?
Yeah. So your why is so important when you are thinking about your life, choices you're making, goal setting. I know I was listening to one of your previous podcasts and you were talking about the details of goal setting, how important those are, how you can help yourself keep moving. And I do think that is so important. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about kind of the backstory of that, of even before goals start, having that mindset for why you're doing things, because everybody comes across those tough times, no matter who they are. I do. I know I do. I know you do. I know everybody has those times where you hit those walls and you're like, man, this is tough. This isn't going how I thought. Whatever that goal is, maybe it's a relationship goal, a business goal, a health goal, and we hit those walls. And that's where starting with the why is so important, because then we can revisit it at that moment. So when you're at the beginning of your decision making, I do think it's taking time. I'm not great at this. I love to just jump into things a bit, but I'm learning too how to slow down and take the time to say, okay, why is this important to me? Why would this be a goal that I want to give my time to, my days to, my life to? And that's, again, different for everybody. But having that really solid in your mind of thinking through what kind of person do I want to be? What does that kind of person do with their time? What am I getting out of this? Hopefully it could be for you too. How am I impacting others through this? So thinking those through. One story that comes to mind, I also tell in the book you probably read, is when I started to run. Okay. I always loved sports. I was a team sports person all through high school and college. But about 25 years old, I believe, I was like, man, I'm not in, team sports shape anymore. I, have a kid now and I got to get in shape. And so I had a friend who she was 55, Mimi, and she said, come out to the run club. I'm like, oh, no, I do not run. There's my dead end thinking, right? I do not run.
Yeah.
I'm not a runner. I tried it in 8th grade once. It sucked. I'm short distance, right? And she kept encouraging me. And so I went out. Well, it was this whole journey for me of I started literally walking a light pole, jog a light pole, walk to the next light pole, jog, up to my first goal was a 5K. And I was like, okay, I want to run a whole 5K. I think I could do it. Well, I knew my why before that. My why was I wanted to be healthy enough to run around with my son. And I had this vision, and now it's getting closer and closer. I don't know where the years go, but I had this vision that I wanted to be a grandma that was out and active with them too. I wanted my kids to be able to look at me and be in there. I wanted to be in there with them as we're playing and we're hiking and we're biking. I wanted to be the mom that was in the middle of that with all of them, experiencing it, encouraging them, not sitting on the sideline. So that was my why. And through all these years, my 5K turned into a 10K, into a half. I did one marathon, and that was good. And then I came to triathlons and I, found those. I love that new challenge, that new thing. But my why has always been there. So those times where I'm like, oh man, I don't want to run, or I'm getting, the time to bike, or I'm getting tired. I just keep my why strong of, no, I still want to be someday, that mom who's out there with my kids. I want to, my daughter and I last summer, we did 4 days on the Pacific Crest Trail up here in Oregon. And you don't get talk time like that in the middle of normal life. You have to be out on a trail for 4 days with a 16-year-old to just get to share and talk. I have to stay active to do that. So that's the understanding the why from the beginning. But then when I get in those times, and that's a simple example of, of my exercise, but that's for all kinds of areas of life. That same why of why am I really doing this? Having that solid. And then it helps you, working through all the details of keeping your goals and how you're going to set that up and keeping going when it's out.
Well, and I love that too, because the why needs to be stronger than getting out of the warm bed onto the cold floor if you're going to go exercise or whatever it might be, or hit the track when it's raining or when conditions aren't perfect, because life isn't perfect and conditions aren't perfect. And if we're continuing to wait for the perfect time, the perfect event, the perfect day, we're going to be waiting a long time and have a lot of really neat experiences pass us by.
I love that. Yes, that's so true. So true.
As we start, Maryann, to kind of round this out, you've recently become a business owner. And I wondered if you could, the last 2-3 years, I wonder if you could speak to what that's been like, maybe some of the challenges, but, I know that it's important to you to have an adventurous life, have those experiences. Sometimes having a business, you get bogged down in details. I mean, what has that process been like? How has that been? How are you continuing to stay true to yourself and have a business at the same time?
Yeah. So we came out of education. As I said, the last 10 years overseas, I was a school counselor. Brian was a principal near the end there. And so we came back. We'd always had this dream to have a coaching company and be able to really help people grow as we had in education, but outside of the formal education system. And so I love what you are asking because it is so true. It is a new adventure. And if you are a business owner out there listening, you know that running a business, it can be really challenging. The growth that comes from those challenges, I mean, it's as great as any other adventure we have been on, just different than the boat in Cambodia, but definitely its own adventure. Yeah, so I think, one coordinate we really love, I think probably my favorite is coordinate number 5 is embrace the awkward. And and coordinate 5 is all about, yes, in cultural situations, you will have awkward experiences, but you have those anytime you're doing something that you're not already skilled at. You don't already know how everything works in that place, in that world. And a lot of times we don't like that feeling. We want to know how things work. We want to be the person who has the answers. We want to be the person who, knows what they're doing. But I know I found for myself as a new business owner, that is not always true. I haven't always known, how does this work? All these details and these things, putting yourself out there, when if you can think back in your mind to when you first started your business and you started telling people about what you were doing. And, people would say to us, especially the first year, so this was 4 years ago, we moved back and soon after we started, people would say, now, when are you going to get back in schools? It was like that. No, like this is what we're doing now. This is what we're passionate about. And that's really awkward, to not have people really see who you are, what you're doing, what you're passionate about. And sometimes that's people close to us, that's you're like, but you guys are educators. That's what you've been, what you've done. So embracing the awkward, I think, is a really powerful thing to be okay with that, to be okay with the fact that we don't know how everything works, to be okay with trying to do your 30-second elevator pitch to somebody. And it's like, oh, that was horrible. I didn't even communicate it well at all. Right. But keeping going. So I know for myself, and you mentioned getting bogged down in the details, that's a challenge. And here, especially I think during COVID at times, some businesses, it's just boomed. For others, it hasn't. It's really been hard. And I think being able to be okay with those awkward, trying new things. Maybe somebody's been in business for 20 years and they know exactly how it works until the last 15 months. And suddenly they're like, I don't know.
Everything's changed.
This doesn't, yeah.
Yep.
Like this doesn't work. I don't know, that these new things I have to try are really uncomfortable. And so that, that's true for us too. There's things we're trying and being okay with like, okay, that didn't work well. Okay, now we need to try this. We want to try this venue and see how that's working out better even in this current time too. It's even more than usual. So I think for me being okay with embracing the awkward, coming to a new industry, still similar working. The people part is the same, is very similar, the coaching, but the business side is new. When you're in a school, clients line up at the door. I had more parents than I ever, had time to talk to, and students.
Yep.
And then, trying to find clients, those kind of things, that can be a really putting yourself out there situation. So I'd say being okay with that has been a big thing with us, and reminding ourselves, this is great. This is part of the process. I'm growing. I feel uncomfortable. Good. I feel a little scared. I feel the butterflies. Good. I'm going to move towards that because that means I'm growing.
I love it. No, Maryann, thank you so much. What are some maybe final words of wisdom or tidbits or things that you might like to share with anybody that's listening today?
I would love to encourage the listeners today just to think about your language. I think I want to go back to that as my closing thought. Listen to the words that you're using. Are you using words that are even empowering yourself? I've done this in my life. I've had times more where I lived by the shoulds. I need to. And of course, there are things I'm all for. Yeah, there's things that I have to do that aren't like I don't feel like doing the laundry and all that every day.
Yeah.
But so yes, I'm not saying throw it all out the window and say, I'm just going to do. But what are you passionate about? What are those things you're like, oh, I want to do that. I can't wait to do that. I'm passionate about that. If you don't have those in your life, if you don't have those things that you are like, can't wait to do this, or I'm excited about this, life is going to feel really dry, really mundane. And that's where we get so stuck in the mundane of life. We don't feel like we go, where's the adventure? This isn't what I thought life was going to be. If you're only living in I need to do this, I should do this, I have to do this. That's not adventurous language. So if you're listening to yourself and you're realizing, man, I'm kind of stuck there. Okay, find that thing that you feel like, I want to do that. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. Oh, it's going to be tough. I'm a little nervous, but I want to. That's just that first step to get yourself living the more adventurous life on that path. It starts with our language and our mindset.
I love that. Maryann, thank you so much. And thank you for your time. I know that you and Brian together are having a lot of success connecting with people, business owners specifically, in helping to improve their culture, helping to improve the way that they set and reach goals, and really, really stretching them. And so please, everybody, check out Maryann at her site. It's adventurouslife.net. Check her book out too. I have loved it. Your Adventurous Life Awaits. Where can people find that? And then also, like, how do people connect with you? What's the best way? Is that on LinkedIn? Is that through your site? What does that look like, Maryann?
Yeah, we'd love to connect on LinkedIn. That's a great way to find us. Please do visit our website. You can actually get a free plus shipping copy of our book there. You can always get it on Amazon too, if you prefer that way. But yeah, just send me an email if you like. We'd love to do, Brian or myself, however you choose, would love to do a complimentary coaching session. We do 20 minutes with anyone. You can book that right on our website, adventurouslife.net. We can talk about what are some of those things that you dream about, and what do you dream of for your company? As you mentioned, what's that way that you want to impact your employees? We would love to talk with you about that, and see how we might be a part of your journey and encourage you in that process.
Wonderful. Maryann, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening today. Please tune in each week. We've got just wonderful, wonderful guests lined up. They've got many life experiences, business experiences, and things that will really help you inside of your organizations to improve. And until then, everyone, create a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.